This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. And today, we got Mr. Brandon Bateman with us from the Bateman Collective. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, how you doing, David?
I'm good, man. We were just, before everybody got the opportunity to hear us, just dealing with a fun little banking situation, you know. It's always nice during the holidays when you need to take your high-maintenance wife out to a jewelry store and you want to get the limit increased on your card. Not the limit, but the daily spending limit. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing, man. You can have a massive limit on your card, but you can't spend more than $3,000 in the day. My wife quit accepting. She quit accepting $3,000 gifts from me a decade ago. So,
weren't you just in the jewelry store like 2 weeks ago when we recorded?
Yes, I was, as a matter of fact. She now accepts multiple gifts valued over $3,000 from me in 30-day periods. So anyhow, that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about Brandon.
Well, this time,
Brandon,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
no,
I was going to say this time maybe you won't have to pull your piece on some random psychopath trying to come at you in the store.
We're going to Tiffany's at International Mall tonight. I think we
should be a little bit more low key.
What he's referring to, Brandon, is I literally had to pull my gun on a guy the last time we were in the jewelry store because
some crackhead.
He was hopped up on meth trying to smash in the front window, and I had my wife and kids with me, and that's just how I'm wired, man.
That's how we roll.
Yeah, wow, that's an experience I haven't had. I think my wife has not become accustomed to such things yet, so I think I'm in the green zone for now. Our credit limits are sufficient.
You're better served.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, man. It's not like my credit limit's low. Number one, I don't use credit at all. I use debit cards only. I'm cash for everything.
Straight cash, homie.
Yeah, my problem is it's the daily spending limit that they get you on. Is they limit you to $3,000 per day, and then you got to jump through a bunch of hoops. And that's the other thing, man. Like, they ask me secret questions for, like, my password. I have no clue what I answered to them because they're not, like, the standard mother's maiden name and where were you born and all of that.
Yeah. Can't verify your own identity.
Yeah, favorite sports team. I don't know if I said Tampa Bay Rays, Devil Rays,
Could be anything.
It could be one letter off, and I can assure you that the young lady on the other end of the phone is not going to accept my answer unless it's anything less than precise.
Speaking of Tampa Bay, teams, the Bucks took care of business last night, which was fun.
They did.
Dude, I saw. Okay, so sorry, we have to go down this road. I saw your boy Dumas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we didn't.
At the Bucks game.
Yeah, we didn't talk, but I just thought it was funny.
Would you just give him one of these, like
No, I
across
just
the way, or
not even that. I just saw him and recognized that I saw him, and then carried on with whatever else I was doing. No.
Oh, okay. Well, then
it's not really that great of a story. I just thought I would tell you.
Always interested in hearing about Mr. Dumas.
That's right.
So, Brandon, we're here to talk to you today, man. Talk a little bit about what your background is and how you got here. Like, I've read some stories online, but I'm interested in hearing from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, good question, David. Depends what you consider here also. I run a digital marketing agency, a little bit of a different world from yours. We do all kinds of like paid search,
I like
paid
to dabble
social.
a little bit. Yeah, I like to dabble
really?
a little bit, Brandon. I may be a little.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to play dumb insurance agent for a while. We'll see how good I am.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to talk a little bit more in depth about it. But yeah, so that's what we do. I run agency. We kind of work with companies right now, pretty much software, e-commerce, and a lot of clients in real estate are kind of what we work with. But yeah, that's kind of the game. This is we run the traditional agency model when it comes to marketing, and just trying to get better at the craft and grow the team and scale a business and sales process and all that kind of stuff that most businesses deal with.
Cool. So talk about a couple of things. Number one, what's your definition of digital marketing? Because that is literally one of those things that means something different to anybody that you ask. So I'm interested in your definition of digital marketing.
Yeah, good question. A lot of people these days just call it marketing because they're almost the same thing. Although there's some straggler channels that work in some industries that aren't digital. But really, digital marketing, in my opinion, would be any kind of marketing that happens online. Marketing being the positioning of a product, creation of collateral there, media buying, all that kind of stuff. What we specialize in is media buying. So that means that we're specifically buying advertising inventory online for companies in order to generate leads. So that's basically the whole scope of what we do, which is a small sliver of the total digital marketing space, but it's my favorite because it's data driven. I think it's exciting and it changes fast, and it's all about creating performance. So I love that direct response side of digital marketing.
Yeah. The other thing that you had said is more of a traditional agency model. Explain a little bit about what that looks like too. And Brandon, I'm not asking you remedial questions because I feel like that's what you're capable of answering. I got to set the table, man, because I do have a bunch of insurance agents that listen to this who are also connected to a lot of real estate people. So definitely a good audience for you to be talking to, but I want to make sure that we give them the foundation first, because I'm going to give them about 3 minutes and 52 seconds before we have them short circuiting. So we got to get the foundation right.
Yeah, fair enough. So when I said agency model, basically what that means is we do work on behalf of companies to generate leads for them. So I'm saying, as opposed to, like, for example, you'll find some marketing companies that do, like, for example, pay-per lead programs where they generate leads and they sell leads. We don't do quite that thing. What we basically do is our clients come to us. They say, I have this amount of money and I would like to turn this into leads, and from there, hopefully into revenue. And we decide what kind of media to buy and how to buy it most efficiently in order to put that money to the best use. And then we take a fee for doing that. So that's kind of the model of the business that we run.
Got it. What's the average size of your average client or prospect, for that matter?
As a company, we have a lot of clients in the $1 to $5 million per year revenue range. It sort of depends. In real estate, we definitely work with smaller companies, and we've kind of built a niche product specifically for there. And then outside of real estate, we've worked with usually larger companies, larger than the small ones, but still, like, startups anywhere in that $1 to $10 million range typically.
Understood. And I mean, I think that 1 to 5 million is probably the upper echelon of the average agency out there, right? From an insurance perspective, there's plenty below $1 million. You start hitting $1 million in revenue, now you've got a really good business. Not that you don't have a good business below that, but I mean, there's an inflection point, and I think that it's easier to get from 1 to 5 than it is to get from 0 to 1, in my opinion, if you know how to spend your money right and market correctly and all of that. But it's interesting that so you're dealing more with the consumer facing or the purchaser facing. It might be business to business, I imagine. Real estate's probably more business to consumer related stuff. You're not taking ad buy from somebody and then looking to distribute it out. So some of my experience revolves around affiliate marketing. And when I was dealing with the ad buyers, it was usually the group in New York that was representing, Capital One or Delta or Amex or somebody like that, and said, hey, look, we really want to get in front of your audience, and here's what our budget is. What does that look like, right? You're not doing that. You're more along the lines of, I'm Johnny Insurance Agency owner. I'm going to come in and say, look, I want to scale my presence digitally. I've got this much money per month. What can we do for that? And if it's an insurance agency, you're probably going to laugh because it's never going to be enough money. They're all cheapskates, right? They don't understand how that works. I've got a
I got
I've got a
about
buddy.
tree fitty.
Yeah, that's it. Like, well, I've got $500 that I can give you for Google search-based ads, and I mean, it's just it's a whole different animal. And I mean, I think that one thing too, is we're setting the table. It's probably important to talk a little bit about the different types of ads that you can do, right? You can, as far as how your ad spend breaks out, you can have stuff that's based per 1,000 impressions. You can have things that are cost per acquisition if a specific call to action is made. People throw around terms like pay-per-click and all of this other stuff like they read it in a magazine somewhere, Brandon. It's really what happened, and so now they think they know what they're talking about. You really have to have a blended approach, man. And I think that that's why a lot of people need to be looking for a firm who does this every single day. Insurance agents are like the Swiss Army knife of business people, right? We can do everything. Just ask us. We can do it. We can do digital advertising. We can do print advertising. We can cold call. We can telemarket. We can build a website. We can handle the updates and patches for our websites. We're bloggers. I mean, and I'm obviously saying this very, very sarcastically because people really do think they know all of this stuff when the harsh reality is they suck at every single piece of it because they don't know. And they're too cheap to go out and hire people who know how to do it in the right way. So I'm just, I'm interested in talking a little bit about just the different types of advertising you could do inside the digital realm so that people understand what that looks like. And then I'm going to let you go off to the races, man, and tell us everything you want us to hear.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Happy to discuss it. So, yeah, one thing I wanted to comment on that you said is just the mindset that revolves around digital marketing. Because I think a lot of those companies that are in that smaller range, you kind of get stuck in this mindset that I've talked to a lot of people that kind of treat it like it's a job. You say, I'm going to get this salary, and then the moment you find out that you've got to spend money to get your salary, you're like, what the heck? It's a salary. Like, that's not how it works. But that's kind of like the limiting small business kind of mindset that, like, if I can't do it or if it doesn't just come to me naturally, then it's not worth it. When you get into the kind of stuff that our clients are doing, it's a lot more of making your money work for you than it is making your time work for you. And it creates a scalable business model where you can generate leads that can generate a return on investment, and you can actually make that path easier. I think the reason that you've seen that it's easier to get from 1 to 5 million than it is to get from 0 to 1 is because if you got to 1, you probably knew a thing or two about marketing, and then it's just doing it over again. Versus a lot of the people that haven't gotten that far, they're just, it's everything that comes is a factor of chance. They don't really have control over it. They don't have the data, all that kind of stuff. So that's really the magic of digital marketing. It's a repeatable process. You can execute that process some type of result, and the idea is that you can create profit doing that. Where I can add the most or shed the most light on this is just in the few channels that are available. There's tons of stuff you can do in digital marketing, and you'll find a ton of people that specialize in all kinds of things. Even within my company, you'll find different people better with different types of tasks. But really, it's 2 channels that I have the most expertise in. We have Facebook ads. Really popular channel. Tons of people are using Facebook, Instagram, basically media buying, promoted posts on those platforms. And how that works, you kind of said this before, you alluded to the idea of a cost per 1,000 impressions. Basically, CPM is the three-letter acronym that marketers love for that.
Do a little CPM tonight, Kyle. What do you know about that?
Yeah,
Nothing.
So see. Yeah, I mean, it just is some Latin something or another. But the point being, it's that kind of platform. You're paying per impression or per 1,000 impressions, so to speak. And the really cool thing about Facebook is there's all kinds of different audiences that you can target. You can put promoted posts on Facebook in front of those people and hopefully drive some type of action. The other platform I know a ton of stuff about is Google pay-per-click. A little bit of a different thing in the sense that Facebook, you could say, is a demand generation channel where you're kind of going to someone, you're saying, well, what do you think about this? And then they might respond positively. Google, they're seeking out something specific. So it's an intent-based marketing channel. So the real magic of Google is that people are searching on Google. Google influences a lot of purchasing decisions. People find information on Google that helps them eventually go one direction. Like, for example, looking for insurance or whatever the case is. Whatever they find there could influence their purchasing decision and most likely will. So Google pay-per-click is all about the art of basically gathering business from Google in a paid way using their advertising platform. What pay-per-click means is it's a auction-based system where you're going to pay for clicks. And the whole way that the advertising system works is you can kind of choose things that people could search that you want to show up, and you pay when someone searches that, and then they end up clicking on your ad and going to your website. So those are kind of the two channels that I personally know the most about in terms of how to optimize advertising and different ways that you can do it. Pay-per-click is known for being that channel that has incredibly high quality traffic because it is that intent-based traffic, but it's very expensive versus Facebook being a very cost-effective channel where you can reach a lot of people for pretty cheap, but it's a lot less relevant of an audience without actual intent to do anything.
We've talked about the Facebook, just absolutely crushing me on here before. I mean, I feel like recently actually, where like I'm scrolling through and I'll see something and I'm like, yeah, it's cool, whatever. And then
You gotta have that, man.
two or 3 days later, I see it again. I'm like, I've seen you before. And then by the third or fourth time, it's in the cart. I'm on the site. It's done.
Well, I look at it like this,
That's
man.
funny.
I think Facebook, if you get into the news feed based on, having analyzed cookies in people's browsers and you're using it as a retargeting campaign, I feel like it's got a much better use than just trying to organically sell people, right? Now, if you're product based, like if you're the guy, like the people I know that have made the most money off of Facebook ads have like a product that's drop shipped through a Shopify store or Amazon.
Correct.
And one of the best examples that's just been invading my feed lately is the thing where you can use it to poke the hole in a can of beer to shotgun the beer. And I'm like,
wait, so they're selling keys?
yeah, I'm like, you people don't have car keys? Like, who buys
what is this?
Right? Like, but truthfully speaking, those are the kinds of stuff you see. Like a lot of the like this watch band. Perfect.
Isn't that how you found Dr. Squatch?
It is how I found Dr. Squatch.
Hell
and
yeah.
Tecovas boots and a lot of other things. But how we have used it is when we'll run like a YouTube ad campaign or something that we're using on Google, and maybe it redirects to a landing page with a survey, and the pixel fires when they start the survey, but it never fires on the thank you page. So we know they didn't complete it, but we can gather their information and then redeploy that for retargeting. That's been a pretty successful method for us. Number one, it freaks people out, man. If I'm going to tell you I'll save you money on your car insurance in a YouTube ad, and I redirect you to a 5-question survey that you don't finish, and then all of a sudden you go over to check out Aunt Sally and see what's going on with all your friends from high school you haven't talked to in 30 years in person, and the first thing you see is my mug saying, what do you mean you couldn't even finish 5 questions and you still want to save money on your car insurance? Like, how do you expect this to happen if you don't finish the survey? Click the button down here and be done with it, right? That's how the retargeting piece is how we've had success doing that. I think that the misconception with the Google ads, though, specific to the insurance industry, is how we perceive things to be. We're so used to depreciation. Like when we look at actual cash value as a settlement, we understand that's replacement cost less depreciation. And so I think that sometimes our minds gravitate towards thinking about things in a straight line. When you're dealing with Google ads, you can't just go out there and say, you can't go to somebody like Brandon and Brandon says, look, we're going to put the work in. We're going to come to you with the proposal, and we're going to show you exactly what you need to do. You've shared your objectives. We've asked our questions, done our fact finding. This is our recommendation for you. And then you look at it and say, $5,000 a month. I only want to spend $1,000. People, that is like somebody coming into your office and saying, I would like for you to insure me the proper way. And then you go in, you do all the work, you provide the quotes, and they don't like the price, and they start stripping out coverage. And 3 months down the line, they end up with a claim. The claim's not covered, and it's because you decided you didn't want to trust the expert, and you had them cut coverage. You can't be angry at that person. Google Ads is no different. If you go to somebody like Brandon that's got an advertising firm, and they tell you what it is, be prepared to spend that amount of money. if he projects that you're going to get X number of opportunities for spending $5,000 a month, and I'm just throwing it out there. It might be more, it might be less, but for $5,000 a month, we project you're going to get X number of opportunities. That doesn't mean that if you say, no, I only want to spend 1,000, that you're going to get 20% of what you would have gotten for 5. It's not a straight line. You might only get 2% of what you would have gotten for 5 because of the way the algorithms work. The snowball hasn't gathered enough momentum yet to do the things it needs to do. And we witnessed this with our own Google advertising. When we turn it on and turn it off, it's cheaper for me just to let it ride. Even in the times when the months are slower, by the time we allow that snowball to catch more momentum, I've spent more money than I would have just to let it ride and do its thing. So listen, I'm not selling for Brandon. I'm selling for everybody who's got an agency out there. If you people are not experts in this and you want to do it right, A, you need to hire an expert, but B, you need to trust that expert. If you expect people to take your advice when they come in looking for insurance, then why are you being, talking out of both sides of your mouth when you go hire somebody to do a professional service for you and you want a nickel and dime them? You can't have it both ways.
Is that the biggest mistake you see, Brandon, that, companies that are engaging you are doing what Dave was just talking about, or is it something else?
There's a lot of that. I mean, trusting the expert, I think, is a huge thing that you need to do. We've kind of got, and frankly, this is one of our biggest challenges as a company now, is staffing for this, because we get so much pushback from our clients and so many things, right? So I tell people when I'm like hiring account managers and things like that, like you've got to, like 75% of the time when a client says, I want to do this, the answer is no, that's a bad idea. We're going to do it this way instead. It's really hard to do that though. And most agencies can't. So where we see a lot of people going wrong with agencies in general is you sabotage your own results because you have too much of an opinion, and you don't trust what they want to do. And they want you to be happy more than they want you to get results a lot of times. The problem is if they can't get the results, then, after a few months, you're not happy. So that's why we pushed back so hard on that. But it's a hard thing to do, like to scale from an operational perspective, to train your employees to like not make clients happy, but instead do what's best for them. A very hard thing to do. The other thing that he kind of touched on is lack of consistency. Digital marketing is not that kind of thing that you want to turn on and off. You've got to buy and hold with this type of strategy, and it produces a much better outcome during that kind of thing. So you just have to be ready. I highly recommend anybody getting into digital marketing. You kind of figure out what kind of monthly budget do you need and how long do you need to do that in order to do the experiments that you're wanting to do to figure out how this is going to work for you. And you've got to put that money aside and count on it as an investment. And marketing it's what you could probably call a high risk, high reward investment, with the risk being that you lose that money that you put into marketing, but the reward being that you build like a scalable lead source that turns into business for you for years to come, and could potentially turn into a scalable lead source that eventually provides more and more of that. And it's one of those things where I think it's a smart bet. But if you have to do the bet, like if you don't want to do it, cool, don't do it. If you want to do it and you want to do it right with the right amount of budget for the right amount of time, you want to be consistent with it, great. But if you kind of like put some money into it and give up too early, that's the absolute worst scenario that you could be in, where you spent the money, but you never actually got the reward. So that's, we find people all the time tempted to do that. And we qualify pretty hard for that one. So thankfully it's not many of our clients. But if we just took anybody who decided to work with us, it would be most of our clients. Pretty hard for that.
Same. No, I mean, absolutely no difference at all in how we operate, right? Look, it's a universal truth that if somebody's a pain in the neck in the prospect process, they're going to be a pain in the neck as a client too. They're not going to see Jesus overnight and just change their ways. That's not how it works. But I mean, again, it goes back to our industry at large is notorious for just writing whatever walks in the door. They don't pre-qualify it. They don't have defined, ideal prospects and niches and all of that. So, that's the deal, man. I think that pre-qualification is huge, and kudos to you that you're able to do it. You've empowered your team to do it. I wish more insurance agents did the same.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for a company that does what's best for not what their customers want. I think there's an assumption generally that what's best for the customer is what the customer wants. but it's in industries where it's an expertise-based industry, that's not necessarily true. So it's yeah, I think there's value in that. I think that produces repeat business. I think it makes even happier customers in the long run. You just got to be willing to kind of stick to your guns, but it's not easy.
No, it's not. I mean, but how many people walk into the doctor needing a quadruple bypass and say, "No, you know what? I prefer you just go ahead and give me an endoscopy today, doc. We're going to go ahead and skip the bypass because I feel like what's best for me is that." I mean, it's a ludicrous statement to make, right? But I
Yeah.
mean, you're telling an expert in their craft how to do their job with no formal training whatsoever. I don't care if you stayed in the Holiday Inn Express last night or not.
Can we bring those commercials back? Like, where did they go?
I don't know. Brandon, you're an advertising guy. You have an appreciation for commercials and things like that. What is your favorite that's running right now?
Oh man, that is that is an
Because I'll tell
extremely
you
tough
mine. I'm
question.
going to buy you some time and tell you that my absolute favorite commercials that have been out for the last couple of years are the progressive commercials with
Dr.
Dr.
Rick.
Rick.
Yeah.
Classic.
And
The
that's,
guy
I mean,
who's
I think
keeping
that's
you from becoming
probably,
your parents.
I think it hits home a little bit more with us, obviously, because of the industry we're in. But I genuinely just think that dude is hilarious.
It
Like,
has nothing to do with insurance to me. They could not have cast a better person.
he's so good.
Like
He reminds me of my dad's buddy, and it kills me every time.
like when he's standing in front of the people and the guy asks the question, I forget what the stupid question is, and he goes, "Is that what is? Are we hashtagging?" And he just like runs his fingers through his hair, like you can tell this guy is like
Completely
perfectly
disgusted.
exasperated. Yeah, fantastic commercial. Like every little nuance of those commercials are so well written. What's your favorite, Kyle, besides Dr.
I don't
Rick?
know.
You
Dude,
can't- you
I'm
can't
sitting here
steal
trying
mine.
to think because that's, well, I know, but that's the first one that popped into my head. So I'm sitting here trying to think. I know that there's one that I saw recently that was good, and I'm gonna have to think a little bit harder on it for a second.
Geico's kind of polar.
Yeah, but
They
I'm
have some
not
good
going
ones, and then they
insurance
have
on this.
some
I'm
that
not
suck.
going lame. I'm not going back to back insurance. Plus, I mean, I feel like the Gecko's a little played out. I mean, you know, he had his time to shine back, you know, whatever, 10, 15 years ago. I just the quality is not there for me, like Dr. Rick.
Dr. Rick brings it. Brandon, we bought you some time, man. What do you think?
Yeah, and you're asking a hard question. I mean, this stuff is it feels retro to me because we do so much on this digital space. I don't see a bunch of commercials. I see a bunch of like Google ads. I see a bunch of like Facebook ads and stuff like that when we're researching for competition. So ours are a little bit different. But I have to say I have a different spin on it because I'm a direct response advertiser. So we don't like a lot of stuff about not becoming your parents and stuff like that because it actually doesn't have to do very much with insurance, and it generally produces brand lift, but it doesn't produce direct response.
That's a great
impact.
answer, man.
Yeah. So anyways, we do a lot of stuff. Like I'd say one of my favorite ones that I've seen recently was an ad for Slack on Facebook where it had like this guy like riding a unicorn over a rainbow or something, and said like how it feels to do 30% less meetings at work or something like that. Because I like how they like bring in the emotion, but make it eventually about like the emotion of the product and what the value is there. Because I have to tell you some interesting insights from advertising. We've managed a lot of budget for a lot of companies. One in particular that I'm thinking about here, they hired this firm. You guys ever seen those? Talking about digital ads, you ever seen those like Squatty Potty ads or like
Oh yeah, they were
Purple
on Shark
Mattress,
Tank
all
too.
that stuff? Yeah. So
May or may not have one.
so this anyways, we hired this company that made like a bunch of those ads for
so
all
much
those different
sense.
companies, and we were doing the media buy on this project, right? So this company spends like $100,000 on this video, and the video, the point is it's a hilarious video, a lot of people love it, and it costs $100,000, and we were putting like $30,000 a day behind the video on Facebook ads. This is not a small budget. And we're producing tons and tons of sales for this company. But we were also advertising some other stuff. One of those things happening to be just like something that a person had just taken, like a user generated type thing. I'm pretty sure it was like taking the product and making like a boomerang video of it in a parking lot like something that simple, where it was just like user generated. It looked like it belonged on Facebook, and that overperformed our $100,000 video by a factor of 2. And it was, nobody like disliked the $100,000 video. It was hilarious. It was great. It was creative. But the difference is it didn't produce purchase intention. People just liked it. And we've seen that over and over and over again.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so we validated that thought process internally. Actually, if you go back to when we ran the BMW campaign on YouTube, Kyle, that's exactly what that was. We created a YouTube video campaign specific to our special program for BMW owners because we found a brand that people had a cult-like following with, that we knew that if we could get in front and disrupt them before they watched stupid cat videos on YouTube, that we liked our chances, right? But I didn't go out and spend $100,000 to film a video. I literally filmed it with my iPhone in the parking lot, and one of the reasons why we picked BMW is because 3 of us drove them. So we already had the cars we needed to film it. But it was literally fairly well scripted. I can't say that it was perfect, but people watched it because they're like, who's this dude talking on a cell phone? It didn't have the touch and feel of a professional commercial. Right. And that's what got that thing traction. And by the way, agents out there listening, if you don't think that it works, we spent about $1,000 on the ad and wrote over $1 million in premium from it. So it works.
Yeah. I will say the other commercial I just thought of that I remember that I used to like when they first came out was the Bud Light Dilly Dilly commercials. Those were hilarious.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. But I feel like that one didn't get as long a run as it deserves, honestly.
It kind of died pretty quickly, but it was good.
Good deal. So talk a little bit about, I think that it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on this. I trust that our audience will follow us down this rabbit hole. But you bring up a good point, man. Lifting brand awareness is one thing. I'm not a fan. Like, I'm not interested in impressions most of the time. I'm interested in conversions. And so even with the podcast, as we work with different companies that approach us to represent their brand, it's a interesting dance that you do, because I've got national brands that are used to just spending a ton of money, and all they're worried about is having a banner somewhere where they're getting a number of impressions, and I'm including something in our email newsletter or whatever else. I'm not your guy for that. Now, if you want to hit a niche where you're going to get conversions because you have a product that resonates with our audience, 100% of the time I will outperform the impression-based advertising, because A, we use every product that we represent, and B, I know how to use the product. So it's not about just me, rattling off a commercial or reading an ad. It's, hey, here's how we use this to generate
actual
this
user
much revenue
experience
in our agency, and give them the step by step. But when you're dealing with Google search ads in that arena, talk a little bit about the architecture of what those ads need to look like, because it's a completely different architecture than creating the video for your product or the product that we talk, us doing the YouTube ads out in the parking lot.
Yeah, it's way different for search advertising. I mean, all you have to do to really get an example is just search on Google and see, what kind of things are showing up. There's basically there's a couple of core elements. The first thing is going to be the search term. That's what someone actually searches. And the reason that's an incredibly important part of the ad is because you need to make sure that your ad is hyper relevant to that particular thing. Some of the biggest mistakes that we see people making is they say, I want to show up for all people searching all these kinds of things. And then they have one ad for all of those things, and it's not actually hyper relevant to those. And then one of your competitors is hyper relevant to one of those things. And therefore you have a disadvantage compared to someone else. So really that's kind of what the most important thing along the whole path is relevance. But on Google, it's pretty much made up of 3 headlines. You get 3 headlines, 30 characters or less each. And then you have a couple descriptions of 90 characters where you can kind of, talk about it. Then there's a link. to where someone's actually going. And occasionally you can work with extensions, things like that. Maybe show your reviews, maybe show some links to other places on your site, that kind of thing. When someone clicks on the ad, it has to take people to some place where they can some type of website where they could eventually become a lead. Biggest mistakes there are sending people just to your homepage because you just want to generate traffic. You lose ability to track that really well. And turns out your main website, even though you like it and it looks pretty, doesn't actually convert very well. If we're talking about conversion optimized campaigns, we spend money on marketing because we want to generate leads. Our clients always get the best results with landing pages that are dedicated just to the PPC. So something like a headline that's very relevant to exactly what that person searched, a call to action that's very clear, no links going to other places, simply just they're either going to convert or they're going to leave. It's called a squeeze page, and it produces a lot more conversions typically.
So here's my favorite argument from my peer group. This is not my argument, by the way. I agree with 100% of what you've said, because our best performing digital ads are those ads that go to a dedicated landing page for quote bind issue insurance products. You either buy it and pay for it and have the policy issued there, or you don't. End of story, right? But people will say, but I don't want to have landing pages because it affects my SEO. No, it doesn't. The whole point of a landing page is you don't want people finding it through organic Google searches. It's specifically there for a paid ad. That's the whole point of having it. And you don't structure it like a regular web page for that reason, right? We do really, really well with those products that we have built dedicated landing pages for, and we put the ad dollars behind it. Florida Wedding Insurance is a landing page, period, right? If you want to buy liability for your wedding, you click on it, you put your card in, and it spits the policy out all on that page. If you need more information or you want event cancellation coverage, which requires you to talk to a human being, different animal. You have to click that button and fill out a short form, and it's going to dump it into HubSpot, and then HubSpot will work its witchcraft, and we'll be in touch with you, based off of how the CRM works. But, I think that's a big misnomer, man. People are worried that it's going to mess up the SEO for their root domain if they have landing pages, when if they're built correctly, it has zero effect whatsoever.
Yeah, it's really separate things. There's all kinds of myths that go back about, how paying for ads helps your SEO and Google favors people who are advertisers and stuff like that. And it's been disproven over and over and over again. There is no negative effect of using a landing page for your pay-per-click advertising on SEO. They are completely separate things. So where people go wrong is they try to use a site for both, because there's going to be elements that are different about them. Let's just say you designed your homepage of your website to be perfect as a pay-per-click landing page. What's probably going to happen is you're going to have no links going anywhere else. You're going to have an extremely basic framework because it's going to have to load very quickly, and you're going to code it just with that purpose. It's going to be relatively short with some really obvious call to actions and probably not that much information and general information about your company. And it's going to be slim on content. You're probably going to have stuff that says very quickly and to the point what your value proposition is, so that it can be understood quickly. And it would be horrible for SEO purposes because you don't have that internal linking structure. You wouldn't have links going to these other websites that help build up the authority across the pages. It'd be bad for SEO because you wouldn't be able to have enough complexity, because you'd be limited by the site speed factors. You wouldn't be able to have enough complexity to build out like a website with enough pages, and it is viewed as content heavy for Google. And you wouldn't be able to. You would just say things in a really different way, right? Your content wouldn't be as keyword dense. You would be saying things like a lot of sites that are really well optimized for SEO do kind of say the same thing sort of over and over again, but different words. It's a little bit annoying sometimes, but you need a lot of content in order to rank in search engines. And you wouldn't really be able to do that because it would lower your PPC conversion rate. So you don't want one page with two purposes. You want one page for each purpose and do each one really well, or else you end up with a website that doesn't convert for PPC and also doesn't rank in search engines. And that's worth less than just doing one of them right.
It's a good piece of advice.
So here's my question, man. I'm not asking you for the how, but I got to know. I'll share mine. What is your favorite, like, super high level ninja hack for digital marketing? Like, what's the trick that puts you on the map?
This is man, this is a question and a half because there's
Do you
so
want me to tell
many
you what
so
mine
many
is?
things.
Do you want me to tell you
Yes,
what mine is? And then you can
yeah,
shoot me
maybe you'll
down and be
inspire
like,
me.
you
Yeah,
freaking rookie. So my absolute
exactly.
favorite is to create Google or YouTube ads using a list of people who have been to my competitors' domains, so that when they go to my competitor's YouTube channel, my ad pops up first. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's cool. That's you can do
He's
that kind
like,
of stuff.
Yeah,
he's like, yeah,
that's
okay.
cool. Your shit sucks, bro.
I thought you were talking
Well,
about some ninja level stuff, man. Like, remember, I'm an insurance agent, man.
yeah. It's funny. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do things. I mean, that's one good method to target. I'm trying to think of like what is the stuff that has generally produced repeatable, scalable, efficient results for our clients. Like the stuff that has been most important.
I feel
And
like this is going to be a non-sexy answer based on how you're setting it up.
it is definitely a non-sexy answer, but it sort of is in some ways. So the thing about digital marketing that we get caught up on sometimes is the idea of hyper targeting just the right person, and I love that. It's this is sort of like what you were talking about, this idea of like finding just that right person. The problem that you usually have with that, unless you're with a small budget, is scale. You just can't spend as much money on it as you hoped you could, right? And so when I'm thinking about our clients that have like really scaled significantly, like what's the best way to do that? It's all about closing the loop. The most important thing, what a lot of companies do wrong is they do a lot of stuff that generates leads, and they know I'm doing these 100 different things in my ad account, and these 50 produce leads, and this was the efficiency of each thing. They know that, and then they know that they have those leads, and of those leads, these 5 leads ended up closing, but they don't know which marketing activities generated the leads that ended up closing. And they don't have that data to close the loop and actually understand lead quality. And this is a huge problem that any company that doesn't have an actual online purchase has, because not all leads are created equal. Anybody in sales knows that. But we don't connect the dots, right? We know these things generated leads. We know that those leads turned into these deals. We have no idea where the deals came from in terms of the marketing activities. So if there was a single ninja hack, I think it's closing that loop. Really, we're a data company above all else. We believe in collecting data and then utilizing that data to make smarter strategies. And closing that loop has made the biggest difference for our clients compared to what they've done before working with us.
Nice.
So I think the one thing that really makes digital marketing, in my opinion, the best way to spend your money is the predictability that we're able to gain through the data. I mean, you said it, man. You're a data company first, and by having the ability to gain all of that information on people, whether it be through their web habits or any number of other ways that you can get that, I just don't find it to be a huge risk. To me, it's not as much about the risk as it is people just being willing to take the first step and make that investment, right? So from my perspective, if you're telling me, look, I'll get you the leads, but in order for you to make this worthwhile, you're going to have to close the deal when it comes in, I'm going to take that deal 10 out of 10 times because I have that much belief in my own ability to close if you put the leads in front of me. I think that a lot of times, too, and we found this, to be honest with you, Brandon, that's one of the reasons why we shut off the BMW ad, is because good advertising magnifies bad processes. And at that stage in our life, you know, we didn't have the processes for handling the inbound traffic when it came in. So, you know, we literally got hundreds of leads from this campaign, and there's like 3 of us trying to work it at the time. And yeah, we wrote a lot of business, but I also probably shaved 10 years off of my life due to stress, just trying to figure out what that looked like. So we took time, and we've now stepped back, analyzed those processes, and made them much easier to deal with. But holy cow, man, you know, for those people who are willing to put the money out, if you don't have defined processes in place and how you're going to handle the leads when they do come in, and they will come in, don't hire an advertising firm yet. Double down on getting your processes right first, and then you're going to operate more efficiently, number one, and number two, you're going to be ready to handle the leads when Brandon the Rainmaker steps in to make it happen for you, right? I think that there's a lot of people who get frustrated and they quit for that reason too, which is why I give the advice, if you don't have the processes, don't even start yet. It's no different than the advice we give on virtual assistants. If you're going to bring a virtual assistant into your operation to run some portion of that operation, whether it be basic level processing or doing quoting for you or any number of other things that a VA would do, you better have those processes defined, replicable, and trainable before you bring that person in. Otherwise, you're just bringing somebody to sit and stare at a screen all day who's not going to have the ability to figure it out on their own because they're not licensed in insurance. They don't work in the agency, and they don't even understand what it is you're doing. Advertising piece is the same way. Your staff has to be trained, or it's going to be a horrible buyer's journey for the person that responds to the ad, and you're going to end up blowing yourself up with negative Google reviews and everything else. Thank God we came out of that unscathed, but I mean, it was dicey there for a little while.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds like one of those good problems that can come from digital marketing sometimes, and we've had companies deal with those issues for certain. So it's something that you have to be aware of. I can tell you a lot of the smallest companies that we work with, they do have that mindset of like, I'm going to make this work and then I'm going to 10x it. They usually don't, and the bottleneck being the process, right? It's it always seems like, oh, if I just had tons of leads, my problems would be solved. Tons of leads gets you a different problem, and you then have to solve that one for sure.
We had a guy on the podcast last week. His episode dropped, I think, on either Monday or Wednesday. I'm not sure, but he had written a book called The Dropout Multimillionaire, a guy named Brian Will. Kyle was out that day, and I did the podcast by myself. But he said something on the he said a lot of stuff on the podcast, but he said something that really struck me, and I'll probably continue to bring this up for months to come now. But he said, if you want to be a millionaire, don't go get your advice from a billionaire. Go get your advice from somebody who's a millionaire that's already achieved what you want, because the lens that person looks through as a billionaire is so completely different than where you're at right now that you're never going to even end up being a millionaire because the advice isn't relevant to where you're at in your life. I think digital advertising is very much the same way. People see somebody who's has a success story, right? Like Russell Brunson with ClickFunnels, or all these people that are, posting these great, by the way, people, they're ads, they're getting your attention. You want that golden record or whatever the heck the thing is that they hold up, right? But at the end of the day, people see that and they think, oh, I can do that. I'm going to do that. That's not where you want to start. You need to start at the beginning. Find somebody who's already achieved the next phase of where you want to be. Find out how they did that, or maybe 2 phases ahead of you. But you can't go from 0 to $1 million the first day. There's not a business out there I'm aware of that's able to scale that way or capable of handling the influx from it.
Yeah, I mean, they say the best person to teach you to do something is the person who just did it, not the person who mastered that a long time ago and has since has different challenges. So, I think there's a lot of merit to just surrounding yourself with those people that are just one step ahead of you, for sure.
So what are you seeing on the horizon for digital marketing? We've talked a lot about what's going on currently in Facebook and Google and all that sort of thing, but the people want to know, what's the future hold?
Hey,
Brandon?
how about our buddy Daniel Song has 1.3 million followers on TikTok now?
Yeah, you told me he had like 1 million something like a month ago.
That was 2 weeks ago that he had
right.
1 million. Now it's at 1.3. This guy's blowing up, man.
Good for him, man.
Yeah, I can't comment on that, unfortunately. I don't know who that is, but good for him.
You'll follow him at some point. Everybody's doing it. So
I guess I will. Yeah, I guess the trend shows that it's inevitable. But the future of digital marketing, what does it hold? Good question. So we're seeing a lot of trends on Google of increased search volume over time. This is showing that Google as a platform, as a place where people are going to find the businesses, products, services that they end up interacting with, is growing. So if you're the guy that thinks that digital marketing is going to be obsolete and that nobody's going to find the businesses that they do business with online, then you are most likely alone in that thought. So that's where I think it's so important to start to to build a presence on these platforms, so that you can have that future-proofed sort of business. Some of the biggest things that are changing, it's really becoming the data game. The companies that have the most data are the ones that are winning. So that's why I do think it really is important, even more so over time as the bar is raising. Like there was a time in digital marketing where all you had to do was exist. I remember my first Facebook ad I ran in 2014. I spent like $250 on it and produced a gigantic outcome from that just by existing, because no one else was doing it, right? That was really how things worked. Over time, the bar raises. And for a high performer, a raising bar isn't an issue. It's a challenge, it's fun, but you have to be ready to deal with that, because the fact of the matter is, if your business isn't optimized in every way, you're not going to win. Let's just take Google pay-per-click, for example. Let's just say you're generating leads and someone else is generating leads. You're in a competitive auction. You're trying to pay a price per click. If they close twice as many of their leads as you do, it's not just that they're going to capture twice as much revenue on that. They're also going to create a scalable system, because they're going to be profitable on their Google ads, whereas you're not going to be profitable. And they're going to push the price up on those ads and capture more and more volume, and you're going to get squashed. The companies that aren't making the most money on their leads are the ones that are failing. So basically, be prepared for the bar to raise. That basically means having the most possible talent, managing those campaigns, working with agencies that have a lot of data so that they can make really smart decisions beyond just the information that you have. And you have to be on top of your game. If you don't make as much money from a lead as someone else does, you're never going to win the digital marketing game. He who can afford to pay the most to acquire a customer is always who wins in digital marketing. So a lot of our clients that are most successful kind of have that competitive advantage of we're having the best run business, and that makes their advertising more effective. That's really what it comes down to.
Cool deal. So as we wrap this bad boy up, what is the one piece of advice you would give to anybody out there that's looking to start?
I'd say work with someone you trust, work with an expert, and do it right. I see a lot of people spending, $10 here, $20 there, kind of boosting posts on Facebook or whatever the case is. I think it's like the worst money they ever spent in their life, even though it's not a ton of money that they wasted. The point being, marketing that doesn't work is the most expensive marketing. Marketing that works, even if it's expensive, is so much cheaper to the business because it's an actual investment. So really that's my advice, is just find a way to do it right, and work with someone that you can trust to be the partner for that, and try to build a good scalable company. I mean, building a company is about making smart bets, right? And I think that getting into digital marketing now is a smart bet for a lot of companies, so long as you have a good coherent strategy behind it.
So how do they find you, Brandon? We'll obviously have it in the show notes, but what's the best way for people to get in touch if they would like to engage with the Bateman Collective?
I'd say definitely reach out to Noah, our director of sales. His email is noah@batemancollective.com. So that's one of the best ways to reach out. You can, of course, go to batemancollective.com and fill out the form. That'll get you there too. And then, yeah, we can have a discussion there. I might be a part of the conversation as well, and see if there might be a fit in something for your business.
What I just heard, people, was that Brandon delegated that to his head of sales, which is something all of you should be doing anyhow. You shouldn't be calling him. Your head of marketing should be, or whoever the person is that you've charged with doing that. And then your people and his people can get together, and then maybe you and him can talk at some point in the process. That's how I heard it. My man's running his business the right way. It's no wonder he's been a success. I hope that you have learned something going through the podcast today. We talked about a lot of things. I was very sarcastic about a lot of the things that bother me about my peer group. If it bothered you, then fix it, okay? At the end of the day, we're here to challenge everybody to be better. We bring guests on from both inside and outside the insurance industry, and I just hope everybody takes something away from this one that they can use in their agency tomorrow. And if you are not a digital advertising expert, which is 100% of the people who listen to this, give my man a call, see if you fit. If you don't, he's not going to take you, which is how you should be running your agency too. Everybody have a good one. See ya.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.